some kind of a startup where they are still within the campus. The moment they go out, the moment they come to the final year, there are different pressures, peer pressures, line pressures, parent pressures, campus interview pressures, right? So we are thinking there are some models where even from the first year, second year of engineering, students who have brilliant ideas can be brought aside, a little bit aside beyond the curriculum, and given some tools to play with, tools which are at the back, so that they can start, looking at the technology components at least, if not finance, HR, marketing, and all that, which they will catch later, but at least they will start looking at technology aspects even in the first year, second year. I will talk about it, when I pull out my paper. This is what, I'm thinking, creating, it's all about creating an inspired classroom. Technology, especially I focus from the first slide to the last slide only on technology elements, technology components, technology tools, software tools, hardware tools, right? So how does this happen? Ask your students what they want to do and give them the tools to go and do it. Very easy to say. Very, very easy to say. Whether it is our kids or our students, the future engineers and scientists who are sitting in our classroom, they are saying just ask them what they want to do and give them the tools to do it. There are many things which happen. I know there are practical difficulties in doing all this, but nevertheless, nothing stops us from trying, to at least take some baby steps towards introducing technology-enabled learning, including, things which is a little bit beyond the, simulation, beyond math, beyond abstract concepts of engineering. Like when I studied electromagnetic field theory, you know what I had to go through. All of us have gone through that. Right? If you are an electronics and communication student, DSP, digital signal processing, it's known very differently, right? How do the students call it DSP? They say it is degree, stopping, paper. Last week I was presenting to faculty, they said definite, supplement, paper. Very clear. No? We say it is digital signal processing, but they have their own interpretation of that. So, what can you do? Starting from the first year of engineering, when they are, from the higher secondary, start with physics and chemistry, you can do a lot of things. You can do visualization. If there is a concept which can be a little bit beyond mathematics, you can start by enabling them to visualize it. And how typically it happens is, if you have a classroom where there is a nice projector like this, it's better, right? I don't know how many of you teach in classrooms where there is a projector. If there is a projector, it's good. So you can start by introducing them to visualization so that hard to imagine abstract concepts can be at least visualized. See, I'm not talking about the 10% people, students in the class who will anyway get it. I'm not talking about the other 10%, who have other plans, right? I'm talking about the, the Gaussian curve middle, the middle class people in the classroom who can be, probably bought this side, to the other 10%. So that's what, all this can happen. A lot of people, are doing this. Intel has a wonderful program where they do visualization in physics and chemistry. It's not just all, natural instruments. A lot of people are doing this. Today, this is what is the reality. Either they design or they will use them. Why I'm saying systems, I'm focusing on systems and system level design because, the students very rarely can go out today and get a job where they play with transistors, linear integrated circuits. Those are all gone, right? Any chip you take has, hundreds, thousands, millions, billions of transistors. So they are working at a slightly, not at the component level, but, maybe at the subsystem level, maybe at the system level. So it is very important to know that the people whom you are teaching, when they go out and when they attempt to do something for the industry or they do something for entrepreneurship or when they do research, most probably they will have to identify some elements of system design. So we'll get real. As soon as possible, can you get real with science and engineering? That's the question. Maybe we'll start by applying mathematical model to real world data, show them when they're actually going to use this. It's very difficult, very easy to say here because most of the faculty, we have not gone to the industry and come back to teaching via sabbatical or something like that. It becomes difficult to go and actually show them the application. When I learned Fourier series, if I was told where I will use it in my life, where probably it could be used, probably I would have given more seriousness to to understand that. It's as simple as that. But can the faculty do it today? I don't know. But can technology help them do it? Yes, it can. If you ask me, yes, it's possible. Instruments, physical embedded systems, all of them are getting into some form of, virtual systems, virtual labs, remote labs. All of you are aware of all this, the investments that the government is making on all this, and they are all getting into some kind of platform-based embedded systems, if I may say, platform-based embedded systems. And what are all these people trying to do? They are trying to solve the engineering problems. Engineers are supposed to solve problems. And what problems? Grand problems of engineering, 2010, right? They are the people who are going to do probably, some component, some element of these, identified grand challenges of engineering. And we live in the cyber physical systems world. And come to what is the definition of cyber physical systems. This is from the Office of Science and Technology, and this is from Indian Institute of Science. This cyber physical system is going to touch each and every aspect of. They should become an evolving engineering brain. Maybe they'll use C to solve a problem. Maybe they'll use C++, Java. But that should not be the focus. The focus is not to become a Java expert. The focus is to become a good engineer, a good problem solver. So at the end of 3 years, 4 years, if using these technology elements and tools, you can build an evolving engineering brain which thinks like an engineer. I think we have done a fair job. We have done a very good job. And that's what I'm saying. When you use these tools, be careful that it should never limit. It's not like, oh, I want your students to learn National Instruments tools. I want them to be certified so that they can get a job. It's not a tutorial college, right? They are creating engineers. So they should learn many tools. Maybe they will become proficient in one or more of them. But the focus is never on the tool. The focus is always on innovation. The focus is not become a master of a tool. The focus is how can you use it? How can you use it for innovation and implementation? So this is, like 500 BC. Very, very relevant even today. So if you use a blackboard and teach, they may forget. Get them to a lab and give them 10 experiments in a semester, maybe they will remember. But if you actually ask them to do something, then probably they understand. It's very difficult to forget. That's what, probably we do it in the lab, a little bit on the lab. But I'm saying, every semester, every new engineering test, there is 50, 60 concepts. Now, how can they understand all the 60 if they are doing only 8 or 10 experiments? That's the question I'm asking. I'm saying, can they do engineering? See, when I studied engineering, it was all teaching. The professor was the source of knowledge. We have to listen, we have to take notes and go and write exam. Probably get whatever marks. Then it came, teaching, learner-centric engineering. We said, students is important. It's not the teacher who is important. Today it's all about doing engineering. It's more than, we have moved beyond teaching engineering, learning engineering to doing engineering. That's probably my last slide. And one of the best places to make this happen, if teaching is beyond your curriculum, if research is of interest to you, and you really care about entrepreneurship, is a center of excellence. If you can create a place in your organization which can be called a COE, a center of excellence, that is the place where teaching can happen, that's the place where learning can happen, that's the place where research can happen, and that's a place where industry can come and collaborate for specific skills. Industry can come, like he was mentioning about Reliance, right? They can come, if you have a center of excellence, a space which is identified, all this can happen there. And definitely you'll have startups, you'll have entrepreneurs.